friends, how are you? Welcome to Changing Tracks. Today, Brother Damien is joining us. How are you, Brother Damien? Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Christina, for having me. I'm Brother Damien with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and I'm now currently stationed here in Moyross, Limerick. So this is, I think, my third assignment as a friar. So.
Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, your family? Did you grow up Catholic?
So I'm the eldest of 7 children, and my parents were both very, very good practicing Catholics. I was baptized into a charismatic community, so it was Easter Vigil. Just a new arrival to a covenant community called the Community of Christ the Redeemer, and I guess we kind of grew up in that. I guess you could say that style of Catholicism, where the Holy Spirit was an intricate part of our lives. And then not long after that, my family moved up. When I was probably like maybe 4 years old, we moved up to a place called Ham Lake, Minnesota, and there was a parish called the Church of St. Paul. And to be honest, that's where I received a lot of what I know about the faith. I took it for granted back then. I mean, we had Jeff Cavins at our parish. He taught Bible studies. This was before he was a big deal. Father Mike Schmitz, he would come down from Duluth and preach at the Net Ministries masses when I was in youth group. So I saw him as a young person before he became a big deal. So I just was surrounded by really great evangelists, teachers. I was given so much, but I think more than anything, I had really amazing parents. I won the jackpot on parents. So my parents were incredible, loving people, very nurturing, incredibly loving towards each other. I think they really showed me what marriage should be, what a family should be like. But I think what's most important for most men and women today would be having a great father. I think my father was just incredibly affectionate, playful, risk-taking, and showed so much affection to us and my mom. And so that I think was so formative for me in ways that I can't fully realize. If I didn't have that, who knows what I would have turned out to be. And I think God knows exactly what I need, because when he knows how weak we are, he gives us what we need in order to make it in life, or to obtain the call to glory that he's given to each one of us. He gives us what we need. So I think in order to become the saint he's calling me to be, he gave me really awesome parents. So anyway, and I wouldn't say we were the best at devotions or prayers, but my church was really good about equipping my parents to teach us. So every Saturday we had a thing called family formation, and every Saturday it was my parents teaching me something about the faith for about a half hour. So it was catechetical material in the home. So it was kind of like formation homeschool, but not really. And then every so often we would meet at the church and have incredible experiences together. So that was how it was up until almost my middle school, high school life. So, and great, yeah, I had a lot of love, and I'm so close with my sisters, still am. And so I guess you could say it was an incredibly amazing environment to grow up in. So yeah, that's what it's like.
You said that faith was important for you all through middle school, but would you say that you made the faith your own?
I think that's where it became real. I think my faith became real for me right up to, let me put it this way. When I entered middle school, I had an experience on a retreat, I guess you could say in 6th grade. At that time, it was really kind of funny because it wasn't with the Blessed Sacrament necessarily. It wasn't with, it was just an interesting experience. There was just this painting of the face of Jesus it was a camp out. So around a campfire, there's this big, huge picture canvas of the face of Jesus. And I kept getting distracted and wandering off and walking back and forth. And I just felt God calling me to just come back and pray every time and just to sit with him. Even though there wasn't really the presence of the Blessed Sacrament, I just felt called to be with him. Somehow this picture conveyed his presence to me. So I remember at least believing that God existed and that he was actually talking to me at that time in my life. Before my confirmation, I had this experience of this powerful experience with the Blessed Sacrament. Many of my peers did as well. It was like the Obey Your Thirst retreat is what it was called. And so we went on the Obey Your Thirst retreat, and it was all about the Eucharist. And it was all about his love for us in the Eucharist. And in that time, I think this is what happened. My parents sent me this letter. Every child, every young person, every teenager got a letter from their parents. And while we were in adoration, every single one of us got our letter. And so I opened up the letter, and it was like kind of a love message from my parents to me, but being read in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament. I think what I did at that point is I associated God's love with my family's love. And it just felt so real and close to home and authentic that God loved me through them. And I'm experiencing God's love in a new way here in the Eucharist. And so I always connected the Eucharist with family for myself. So I think that was a really powerful moment in my life where I chose to believe more intentionally this is Jesus. And besides that, having numerous encounters with healing processions, with net ministries during their youth masses. They also have discipleship days, retreats. I mean, I was surrounded by retreats and opportunities to grow in my faith. So it was kind of like getting spoiled rotten with so many things in Ham Lake, Minnesota, you know. And I suppose, so that's kind of where I chose to just really follow God in that way as best I could.
So did you ever reach a point where you drifted away from all of that?
Well, I guess you could say I drifted away. I always went to Mass on Sunday, so it wasn't like I had apostatized or anything like that. It was more like I decided not to, I guess I was like trying to find my value, what makes me good, what makes me valuable or desirable. And what did I have to do? I think my cousin, so I had a cousin named Andrew, awesome, amazing guy, however, really broken. I loved him intensely, and I really desired that he loved me and that I would be approved by him. And I think he kind of led me into certain patterns of behavior that were not helpful for me down the road, that I think really divorced my heart from God in certain ways. Won't get into those necessarily, but it was just, it wasn't pretty. Generally speaking, just how I related and treated with other women really got affected by that. So I think it was just kind of like, I was always seeking after that as kind of like human love and affection, pure acceptance. All these things were kind of like gods to me. And so I was seeking after these things. Didn't have to do anything crazy. I think it's because I just knew authentic love when I saw it, because I think I was shown it from my parents. So I was desperate for it, but not desperate enough to do anything crazy stupid, because I just knew if I had to do that, they weren't really good friends and they really didn't love me. So I just knew that would be the case. I didn't have to do anything crazy in order to be that good or accepted. They would just be stupid friends and they wouldn't really be helpful for me. So, but there was a moment in that when I remember going home from youth club and my father greeted me at the door. I think I had a hard night of it because I was really trying to be accepted by a group of guys. I mean, these guys had really cool cars, subwoofers in their cars. I got to ride in the car with them, and it was like, you know, you're buzzing off the adrenaline from these subwoofers in the back of the car, and you're just saying, man, these guys are so cool. And they also had girlfriends, and it was like, man, I really want what they have. And I never really got what they got. And so in some ways I kind of felt lame and didn't really feel didn't think highly about myself. So because of that, I just come home feeling a bit down, like I'm just second rate, you know? And in that, my dad noticed and he said, "Are you okay?" And I just said to him, "It's so hard to make friends." That's what I said to him. And then he looks me dead in the eyes and he says, "You're made for great things." And that has never really left me. That reality that I was made for great things. And so, and nonetheless, I still struggled. I struggled throughout high school, but I was mostly just struggling with relationships, maybe mostly with my relationship with acceptance and my relationship with myself. And in all this, God was kind of a less of a priority, but it was always relationships nonetheless that kept me in the faith circle. I always had really good friends, maybe not all of them good, but I had some, how do I put it? I had some really good influences that kept me in the right circles. And I guess I was going to mission trips to Mexico, Indian reservations, doing all sorts of amazing fun things that kept me engaged. And it was just, it was life-giving. I loved it. I mean, obviously I was seeking out other relationships that were maybe not legitimate in all of it, but at the same time, it kept me in touch with the church and in faith. So can't be all bad. So.
Was there a certain moment in your life where you sort of veered back towards God? Because you said that you were like into...
Yeah, I was kind of a bit two-faced. I just remember, there was one relationship that I think was kind of a defining one where, thank you, Jesus, I didn't fall too far on it, but it just, she got hurt in it, and I wasn't treating her with love and respect that she deserved. This girl in high school that I knew, and she just, and yeah, you can just use people just to make yourself feel better about yourself, and that's not good. So I had those moments, and I think I was trying to have both. I wanted faith. I wanted the goodness of God because I just knew it was good. But at the same time, I wasn't buying the package. I was kind of also in this hopeful fantasy that maybe I can have this romance with other people too. But I think it's also because I didn't want to disappoint my family. Like, I knew my parents would be devastated if I didn't go into the faith at all. Like, if I totally left, that would break their hearts, and I just didn't want to do that. So yeah, that was kind of why I think I just straddled both worlds for a good while, probably up till seminary. It was kind of wild how I came to that conclusion, but it's just like, I was really trying to hold the two in my hands at the same time for as long as I could, and then eventually I did have to let go of one of them in order to do the right thing. But anyway, so I was just straddling both worlds. Yeah.
So you would say that your vocation has a lot to do with your conversion?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my vocation, my conversion, I guess my conversion was, I think, buying the package that I was made for more, that I was made to love more generously and not exclusively. So I had to really, I had to go through a process. And thankfully, it was all through attraction, I think, and all through internal desires that never left. So I just remember one time my father and I sat down and watched a movie. I was pretty young. It was the movie The Mission. And in that film, there's a scene where the priest is processing with the Blessed Sacrament in the monstrance, and it's at the same time his whole village is being attacked. And there's a part where the priest gets shot and he falls down dead, and then one of the natives comes and picks up the monstrance and continues the procession as the slaughter continues. And I just remember seeing that and seeing how heroic and brave that priest was and the missionary was, and I'm like, I want to be a priest like that. I just saw a desire in me. And like I said earlier, like, I was on mission trips with my parish, so I think the church and mission and going to people who've never heard the gospel made sense to me. And like I said, my father was there, and he says, I'm made for greatness. My father was also, I could say in one sense, that he was the first priest I knew, because he behaved like one. Not because, obviously, sacramentally he wasn't, but in a symbolic way he was. He prayed the liturgy of the hours. He woke up early. He prayed well. He exercised. He was just a balanced man, and he loved very well. And so I was given an incredible role model of a man of prayer. And I just remember waking up from my stupor some mornings, like just to get a glass of water or something, and I'm like wandering upstairs, the lights are on, I'm like, gosh, who's up? It's like 4:30 in the morning, it's my dad, and he's praying. And I was like, wow. Found out later that John Paul II's father was the exact same way. So I was really inspired by that. And I've taken Pope John Paul II as a patron for myself, which is wonderful. And I became an altar server. Altar servers in my parish were like being a part of the Boy Scouts. We would go out on outings, camping trips together. We'd go bowling, have fun together. I mean, it was really just a true fraternity, and we had a lot of fun together. And some of those same guys were also discerning a vocation. So our parish priest was a wise man. He would connect with other parishes and other priests, and they would have these St. Andrew's dinners. And we would go to the bishop's residence and have meals and just have very casual conversation and just getting to know really good holy men. And I would say I was given incredible priests as role models as well in my faith formation. Really holy men who loved the Holy Spirit, who loved their bride, the church. And so as I got to know these priests, the more attractive their vocation looked. One priest, I think it's Father Basil. He's a Benedictine priest from out in North Dakota somewhere. He saw me, the first words out of his mouth to me, he's like, "You will be a priest." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "And here's $50 for World Youth Day." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's kind of sweetens the deal a little bit," because I was going to go to World Youth Day Cologne. So that trip in particular had a huge effect on direction, I think, for me, mostly because of the relationships I made on that trip. I made a really great friend in a man named Marcus Millis, who's now Father Marcus Millis. And he and I we just became great friends. He and I went to a community college together while we were still in high school. I was able to qualify for college courses, so I did that. So it enabled me to mingle with him a lot more, and he invited me to come on a vocation visit, and this was in my senior year of high school, and I'm looking at future colleges at this time, and so he's like, "Why don't you come to the University of St. Thomas? They're going to be doing a Vianney weekend," which is the name of the name of the seminary is St. John Vianney Seminary. So I'm like, "All right, cool, I'll go on the Vianney weekend." So I go on the Vianney weekend, incredibly impressed by the men there. I remember just the handshake of a man named Spencer Howe, who's now Father Spencer Howe. I mean, these guys, they were just beginning their formation in college right there. But I just remembered being greeted by incredibly, truly masculine, fraternal men who did everything to their greatest ability. So they worked hard, they played hard, they prayed hard. Everything about them was done to the full. And I was just very impressed. And I'm like, I don't know about priesthood, but I know I want to be around guys like this. Maybe I'll give God a chance to convince me I'm supposed to be a priest. I wasn't really convinced that I was called to be a priest, but Father Bill Bear, who was the rector at the time, he convinced me that every man, and this is a real truth that every man needs to embrace, is every man is called to be a father. And he started listing all these qualities of what a father is. And obviously, like I've said, I've been given a great role model of fatherhood, but I also realized I was falling very far shy of that ideal. And so I needed formation. So I'm like, I don't know about priesthood, but I think I need to become the best man possible for my future spouse, if it be the church or if it be some woman, and then also for my future children. So I'm like, I think I need seminary. So I applied for the seminary, and by God's grace, got accepted, and my entrance class was 60 men. So it was a buzzing place, packed full of incredible, lively men who really wanted to give God a chance in letting Him lead them in their life. So it was good.
Before you continue, I wanted to ask you first to give hope to our viewers, because maybe they are afraid and struggling in between these same two worlds. What would you say to them to encourage them?
Yeah, I think I was straddling sensual lust and temptation for a good while, along with this call to the priesthood. I mean, I'll put it that way. And because of that, I felt also very unworthy of it, and I felt very unable to. But it was really my youth minister. I think what we need to do is continually be evangelized with what is true about us. And what continually seemed to be the message being given to me was, you're made for greatness. You're called to be a saint. And that's what I wanted to aspire to. And I think, I think I went through Bible studies, but I never really prayed with the Bible as well. So I just remember one of these summer evenings right before entering seminary, and I'm just like in this predicament. I'm like, I'm about to enter seminary, and here I am, like pretty much fudging it all up with my temptation, like falling into temptation and all this stuff. And it's at that time when I just needed to call on a friend. So I went to the church, went to my youth minister, and Mary Colehouse is her name. She's an amazing woman. She's still doing youth ministry, and should be retired by now because she just works herself to death, the poor thing. But she just gave me these incredible encouragements that God doesn't call those who are perfect. He'll qualify you for it. But I just remember also at my graduation, she gave me a graduation card that says, "You're called to be a saint, aim for greatness." And so that's kind of, I think I just had to go with my gut on stuff. It's like, even though you don't know if you can do it, but I think if you know where you should go, just go for it. Just go.
You said that you went to seminary, so I take it that you hadn't met the Franciscans yet. Can you tell us how the Lord brought you to the Franciscans?
Absolutely. So I guess you could say first year of seminary, I just learned how to pray. You actually don't have to know how to pray to join seminary, I guess. You might have a sense of where God's calling you, and that's still kind of being attentive to Him. But actually just spending time with God, contemplation, meditation on Scripture, this stuff I never knew how to do. And to be honest, I fell in love with it. I absolutely loved it. I actually loved getting up for 6 o'clock adoration in the morning. I found out I was kind of a morning person. Didn't know about that. I didn't know that about myself. And I just loved it. I just loved spending time with Jesus, giving Him the best part of my day, which is my first fruits. So yeah, I guess that whole first year, just giving God that time, just to work on me. The second year is, I guess you could say, the year I fell in love with Him. And it was really where I felt God actually speak to me. So there's this one Christmas break where all my seminarian friends, they went down to Texas during Christmas break. And this is probably more during J term in January when they're all away. And all my other friends I'm not really mingling with, and I'm just home babysitting my younger brother and siblings, and I'm like, this is terrible. But my parish had perpetual adoration, another amazing gift that I had in my life. My parish had perpetual adoration since I was in high school. And so I would go every day and just spend an hour at least with Jesus. So it wasn't just in seminary. By God's grace, I kept the habit up even when I was home. And thank God my parish is only 5 minutes away by car. So it made it really easy to just keep the life up. And so I would just go and sit with Jesus. And in that time, one day, I felt like I was getting covered in love. It was as if like numerous hands, and I felt they were hands of various saints in heaven, or I just felt them all like as if they were praying with me or praying over me. I just felt hands all over my back and my shoulder, and I was just resting, and I just felt God's love and heaven's love with me. And I think because of where I was in life now, I just could hear God ask the question. Actually, it wasn't a question like, will you follow me? It was more like a desire that he just made known. He's like, I want all of you, is what he said. And it was not so much audible, but it was in my heart of hearts. I just heard God say to me, I want all of you. And because of all the other experiences I've had, I could look back on false loves, on all the other loves, on loves that just aren't there because they went down to Texas. They're just not there. So I'm like, all these other ones, I just saw I could just see everything else seems to fall short. And I'm like, you can have me. Because no one else will have me like you have me. And so I gave my heart to Jesus that day. And from that day on, I sought, how will I give myself completely to Jesus? Went on an amazing retreat with Monsignor Esif, and he, guy who was spiritually directed he was directed by Padre Pio, and he was a spiritual director for Mother Teresa, one of her few spiritual directors that she had a few people that she would confide in, and amazing holy man. And he really connected me with Padre Pio. And because of that holy saint, a saint who was always in our house, I had no idea, never even asked who he was. I just saw his picture on my dad's mantle, because my dad's birthday is also September 23rd, which is the feast of St. Padre Pio. I'm like, who's this guy? So then I watch a movie on his life, and then I'm like, that's the kind of priest I want to be. I see this man who's so in love with Jesus that he doesn't mind suffering. He doesn't mind being on the cross. He's so in love with Jesus, he'll even go to the cross with Jesus. And I'm like, wow, that's the kind of priest I want to be.
Did the rest of the retreat help you discern exactly where God wanted you?
So on the same retreat, there's this coffee table book called The Drama of Reform about the Friars of the Renewal. I see the picture. I see the picture of the book. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I look through it. Lots of pictures. Men with the homeless. Men on a mission out to the fringes of society. And I just saw everything in it, and it attracted me. Everything about it. I read a few books on a few saints. Saint Francis being one of them. Saint Charles, Blessed Charles de Foucauld. These guys who lived radical poverty but had incredible joy. And I'm like, I want that. And I thought I had to be incredibly poor to get really happy. So I did crazy stuff. I started taking cold showers. I tried to do more intense penances, sleep on the floor voluntarily. Started loving on the homeless more. I studied in Rome also the following semester after this retreat, and started loving the gypsies a lot and just mingling with them. Everyone just saw in me that I was called to be a Franciscan, So I visited the friars finally. My spiritual director eventually gave me permission. He just thought maybe it would be a distraction at first to check out the friars, but I went on a mission trip, and during the mission trip, I just felt convinced I was called to go to the unchurched. So maybe not parish priesthood anymore. And so I checked out the Friars of the Renewal and felt right at home. It was a really strong, lively fraternity of men who loved the Eucharist, loved the poor, loved Our Lady. And I'm like, this seems right. To be honest, I had no spiritual consolations on any of my visits, but I had just this peace and this sense that this is where I was supposed to be. And went to Assisi, visited Francis, got to know him, spent 4 days there on my own, got to really know the man. I felt like he really adopted me as his own brother. And I felt this is really where I'm called to be. I'm called to follow Francis in the way of following Christ.
So, what do you do now? Tell us.
Ever since I've been a friar, I've made a spiritual family everywhere I've gone. I have spiritual children all over the world. And now I'm here in Moiras, and I just have loads of amazing kids whom I love, like I would probably lay down my life for. And I think for me, it's a dream come true. And I don't know about priesthood anymore, actually, because when you get into religious life, certain things get met. It's like, I don't actually need to be a priest to be happy. But if I give my life to Jesus, I have everything. And I don't need necessarily to be one thing or another to be happy, as long as my life is given over to Christ and His will. That's all that matters. So God is mysterious. He might use the attraction of priesthood to get you somewhere, or the attraction of marriage to get you somewhere. But the thing is we have to just do God's will, and that's the important thing. So that's how I've gotten to this place of joy, and hopefully it'll see me into glory.
Thank you for joining us, Brother Damien.
You're very welcome, Christina.
The Lord satisfies all our needs. What more do you want? Sometimes we are foolish, searching in other places and other things when only God satisfies our needs. Just like Brother Damien said, look no more. We have found God. We have found the truth. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.